Michelle and welcome to Healthy Helpings TV, the show where we show you how to make food fun, healthy, easy to prepare. It's really the new fast food. Today we're talking tofu. I'm just going to show you a few different kinds of tofu and hopefully it'll kind of demystify tofu, make it a little bit less scary. Starting off with, we've got the fresh tofu here. Now this comes in plastic tubs in water and you'll probably only find it in your Asian grocers, some health food shops possibly as well. Now what this is kind of, it's got a firm texture but you wouldn't be able to stir fry it because it kind of falls apart. You can scramble it though, the same way you'd scrambled eggs, even maybe in combination with an egg. Now tofu is fantastic because it's a great source of protein, and if you're eating a lot of protein you sometimes don't want to always just be eating meat. This is something that will just make you feel really healthy. I'll show you a recipe with that a little later on. For our first recipe we're going to be using this spicy tofu. Now this is a marinated firm tofu and a great thing for people who might not have experienced too much tofu. You can get this in all sorts of different flavours and it's becoming more and more widely available in grocery stores and supermarkets. Another one for people who are scared of tofu is the tofu puff. Now what these are little sponges of tofu. You can see that they're nice and soft and they really soak up flavour. They're used in things like pad thai, which is a Thai stir fry with rice noodles, and also in things like laksa and lots of other Indonesian dishes. Now these are deep fried, so they're probably a bit of a sometimes food, but they're absolutely delicious. If you're trying to get someone into tofu, that might be a good way to start. The other thing is you can freeze tofu. The texture will change to make it a bit chewier. So if you don't like the soft squidginess of tofu, it might actually be the way to go. Those tofu puffs I showed you, I keep in the freezer all the time and just pull out a few whenever I'm ready. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, for today's first dish, what we're going to be doing is a quick stir fry. I'm going to be using these soybean peas, which are fresh, snap frozen green soybeans. You can see them there. Now they've been taken out the pod. They're pretty much the same thing as edamame, but they've already been shelled. I picked those up in my Asian grocer, but again health food shops might be able to get those as well, and maybe some supermarkets too. We've got some cilantro, brighten up the flavours here. I'm going to be using two different kinds of chilies. I've got these little red ones which are going to add a lot of heat. I think they're called scud chilies. They're a Thai chili. You can use whatever kind of chili you want. And we've also got a green one here which is just going to add a little bit of crunch, and the contrasting colours will make for beautifulness for the eyes as well as the taste buds. Clove of garlic or two. Garlic's absolutely beautiful in all sorts of cuisines and it's a great way to brighten up flavours also. And because we're sticking with a vegetarian dish here, I'm using vegetarian oyster sauce. Now if you're not worried about keeping this dish vegetarian, then you can go with regular oyster sauce. The vegetarian one's made from mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, and has a nice rich flavour. It's a little bit salty, a little bit fishy, and a little bit mushroomy. Okay, now they're the basic ingredients and that's pretty much all you need to get the dish going. And they're all things I normally keep in my fridge, so it's something I can quickly throw together for lunch or for dinner when I really can't be bothered. And you'll see in a sec, it only takes a couple of minutes. Now to make this dish extra special, I've got some Chinese pickled radish here. I'm going to throw a little bit of that in. It just makes a salty kind of tart texture to it. And I'm also going to chop up a few scallions here just to make for more visual appeal again. Now if you're using the scallions, buy them nice and fresh and you can use all the greens all the way up to the end. Lovely. Okay, so I put my wok on and I'm just preheating that because I've got an electric stove. It'll just take a little bit of time to come up. I'm just going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of peanut oil. Now peanut oil is good because it's got a high smoking point, which is why they use it a lot in Asian cooking. You can also use vegetable oil, and I'm just going to use a brush just to spread that around just a little bit. Now my wok's non-stick anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Alternatively, you could use a spray oil as well. This one probably wouldn't be so good because it's olive oil, and that actually burns at quite a low temperature. Okay, so once your wok's up to heat, it's just a case of throwing everything in. We're going to start off with our chilli and garlic, and we're just going to throw that into the pan. Along with a little bit of salt just to make that get nice and crunchy. And just stir that around. Okay, so once the smell of that garlic really starts to get to you and the chilies, it really gets smoky, that's when you're ready to start throwing in your soybean peas. Now, traditionally this recipe is called BBC, which is broad beans and bean curd, and I'm using soybeans instead. They're chock full of fibre, they're really good. You've probably got about half your daily intake of fibre right here in the 80 grams or 2 3/4 ounces. So I'm going to throw that in. You get a beautiful sizzle. Along with about a teaspoon of that pickled radish. And we're just going to stir that round just until the beans start to thaw. Next I'm just going to throw in the tofu and the chopped up scallions. I'm just going to keep moving that around. You really have to have everything ready when you're doing a stir fry. And we're just warming that tofu through. Next, 1 tablespoon of the oyster sauce. Now, oyster sauce could be substituted for soy sauce. This has got more carbs, but soy sauce has more sodium, so you're balancing it out. But then there is potassium to counteract the sodium in the beans, so you might be alright anyway. Both soy sauce and oyster sauce here are quite low in calories. Just give that a quick toss around. It'll caramelise very quickly. And that's pretty much it. Just pull that off the heat, just tearing the cilantro up and just tossing that in there. I don't really ever chop many of my leaf herbs just because all the flavour then gets left on the chopping board rather than in the pan. Now the amount I've shown here is enough just to serve one person, but of course you can just multiply the amount of ingredients out. The cooking time will be about the same. If you're cooking huge amounts then you might want to do it in a couple of batches, but you can see beautiful fresh colours and flavours. Now for a quick tasting. It's just got crunch from the broad beans. There's serious spiciness from those little red chilies, and the freshness that you've got just from adding the green bits of the scallions at the end. Lovely.